So I lived in Los Angeles for 13 years, but then I moved back to Charlotte, North Carolina. So do I regret moving? I'm gonna give you my brutally honest review of leaving Los Angeles for Charlotte, North Carolina, including the good, the bad, and my 6 biggest regrets of moving here. So with all the disclaimers out of the way, let's go. Regret number 1 of leaving LA to go to Charlotte is the weather. You cannot beat the California weather. I remember distinctly the first year I moved out there, I made sure that I always lived in an apartment complex that had a pool. That was my ultimate goal. So I was sitting, and it was December, and I was floating around in the pool talking to my parents who were back in North Carolina. It was 40 degrees and snowing there. And for me, it was like 80 and beautiful. I was like, this is it. I am never going to leave. The weather is incredible. I had allergies before I moved to California, and they just kind of disappeared while I was out there. But they definitely came back once I was in North Carolina. While I really do miss those 70 to 85 degree days year round, it's really nice to see seasons again. It's really nice to see the leaves changed and sweater weather. Honestly, if you would have asked me years ago about foliage, I would have said, does anybody really care about leaves changing? But now I kind of love it. I get why people drive to the mountains to look at the leaves. It's beautiful and relaxing. So what else might you regret if you leave LA for Charlotte? Let's talk about lifestyle. My second regret of leaving Los Angeles would be the slower pace of lifestyle you'll find here. You're not going to find a 24-hour donut spot. You're not going to find a place to eat after 10 or 11 p.m., even in Charlotte. So I tried boba for the first time when I was in LA, and there are places that are open super late. Mel's Drive-In was one of my friend's go-to places after we'd go to the club. We were so convinced that someone was going to discover us at 2 a.m. Spoiler alert, no one did. But the club life, yeah. I remember once I was in New York. We didn't even leave the house until 11 p.m. And I was like, man, this is super late. And I thought we only had 2 hours. No, we danced until 4 a.m. And I think the club was still open. I just decided I had to go home. 4 a.m. was late enough. And now in LA, there's a lot of clubs that are open until 4 a.m. But in North Carolina, yeah, you're not going to find that. Last call is around 1:30, and you better be out by 2. Also, people love small talk here. The express lane at the grocery store, it's not very express. While some people might see that as a con, other people love it. Many people love North Carolina because of the slower pace. Also, we have great food here. You know, lots of Indian food, Korean food, even boba, and a lot of upscale food halls are opening up. But let's say you're ready to settle down and buy a house. You're going to run into something different here. The house buying process is definitely a little different. In North Carolina, we have this thing called due diligence. Due diligence is a non-refundable deposit that you give to the seller in order to do your inspections. It's kind of a show that you're serious. That money is included in your closing costs, and it's not extra. But yeah, you might have to write a paper check, and that is still a thing here. The upside? It's much easier to buy in North Carolina than it is in LA. I've tried to tell my friends to consider investing here. California is expensive. Homeownership can be more accessible here. Charlotte's still a great value, but finding the right deal isn't always easy, especially with things like due diligence. That's why I created the Charlotte Home Watch List. I track price drops, builder incentives, and off-market listings most people miss. Tap the link below and I'll text you the latest deals. No spam, just homes worth seeing. But if you're someone who loves being in a creative environment, you're going to feel this next one. My 5th regret for leaving LA to Charlotte is the lack of the arts. I love taking a random K-pop dance class or improv class. In LA, I danced at Millennium Dance Studio. That's where Britney Spears, Justin Timberlake, and NSYNC trained. You could find a dance class any time of the day. Here, well, I found a K-pop class, but it's once a week at one specific location. In LA, I studied improv at UCB at the Upright Citizens Brigade for years. We performed all over. Now in Charlotte, you might perform, but I'm not really sure who's going to watch it. Charlotte is big enough that it has some options. You're just going to have to look a little harder, and they're just not as frequent. If you're doing it for the love of the art, you'll be fine. Just don't expect to get discovered here. Now let's talk about something way less serious, but still very important to me. Brunch. People don't do brunch here the way they do it in LA. In LA, you can have brunch Monday through Sunday, bottomless mimosas on weekends. Absolutely. I went to brunch here on Mother's Day in Charlotte, and I made a reservation. I panicked about the crowd. I was really concerned that it was going to be very busy. And when we got there, it turns out we didn't really need that reservation. There was like 5 people in this restaurant. And it wasn't a bad location. We were in South End, but people just don't really do brunch here that way. That said, brunch is cheaper here. And I do want to bring brunch back though. So let me know if you want to go. We'll talk real estate over mimosas. And speaking of cost, let's talk about what really makes it hard to go back to LA now. It's really hard to go back to LA after seeing how far my dollar stretches here. Perfect example. When I moved back to Charlotte, I toured an apartment in Dilworth, 2-bed, 2-bath, 12,000 square feet, infinity pool, $2,400 a month. In LA, $1,900 got me a 1-bed, 1-bath, 800 square foot apartment that overlooked nothing. Everything is cheaper here. Vegetables, gas, rent. North Carolina has my heart and my wallet. So, are these regrets deal breakers? Do I regret moving? Sure. There are things that I miss, but the cost of living, the peace, and the seasons, they kind of make it all worth it. Look, if everything I just said sounds awful, like you couldn't imagine being without 24-hour boba or late-night diners, then Charlotte's not for you. But if you're even a little bit curious about Charlotte and what life here could be like, check out my next video, Pros and Cons of Living in Charlotte. Or if buying is even on your radar, check out that home watch list I mentioned. I'll text you some real listings, real deals, no scrolling required. I'm Inga, your real estate bestie. Let's talk soon. Bye-bye.